Hey Ravens fans, I'm here with Field Yates from ESPN. And Field, when you take a look at the Ravens this offseason, what do you view as the big priorities for this team?
I think I always start with in-house business first, and they've got a long list of free agents. So I'm always keeping my eyes on how they address those various players that are scheduled to reach or hit the open market. None more prominent, of course, than Justin Madubuike, who comes off of an unbelievable season. I thought would have been a worthy pick for first-team All-Pro, but really emerged as one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL. EDC's already talked about how a franchise tag is likely if they can't get something done before that window closes. But getting that deal straightened out, whether that's a long-term deal or just a one-year Band-Aid, certainly is priority one. And then other guys that are either impactful players from this past season or guys who have been strong competitors for them in prior years. But, Jadeveon Clowney coming off of maybe his best, most consistent season, about to hit the open market, kind of sort of free agency does he have this year? Does he want to stay? Patrick Queen, same deal, coming off of his rookie contract. So they've got a long list of free agents, but they've got a lot of good players on the roster already. So the reality is you're going to have to be smart and judicious because you don't have endless resources to spend. That's one of the realities of having one of the best rosters in the NFL.
Yeah, that's kind of the reality. The Ravens are tight against the salary cap, and Madubuike is basically priority one in getting that deal done. Is there any way in your mind that they find a way to keep Madubuike and Queen, who are two kind of core pieces, both coming off the rookie contracts, but the money would be tight to make that work?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I would say that while the salary cap is not infinite, generally speaking, there are some strings to pull that if you have massive priorities that you really want to do as much as you can to find a way, you can. It's going to impact your wiggle room elsewhere, but they've got some contracts that they can manipulate and push money towards the future on. And as much as the open market can lead to alluring opportunities elsewhere, a player may value a deal that either is the best in terms of money to stay home, or a player may say, this is the only place I've ever played, and it's the only place I ever want to play. And that, assuming that Madubuike does get that tag, it would give Queen the opportunity to test free agency and see what that looks like for him. There will be no shortage of suitors. I'm sure there will be a team out in the Pacific Northwest that would have some interest based off familiarity with Patrick Queen. I can only imagine Coach McDonald would love to have him around. But if Patrick says, hey, you know what, I've had 5 great years here, I want to make it 5 more, then it's certainly on the table. But these are high society problems. Eric DeCosta does not have his job because he's just made easy decisions. He has his job because he's made a series of very difficult decisions, and one of the realities of having a team that was the best during last regular season and had the best record in the entire NFL is that you've got a lot of really talented players, many of them who have already been paid and are paid commensurate with their value. Lamar being the league's MVP is sort of the prime example. And you also have to plan ahead because we're now, my math is correct, 11 months away from Kyle Hamilton becoming extension eligible, right? Mm-hmm. And what does a contract for one of the best, 4 or 5 defensive players in all of football look like? The answer is very, very rich.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious with Jadeveon Clowney. This was a guy who the Ravens signed, and there wasn't too much fanfare. It was a late signing last year. He goes out there and has his best season. I think it was a great fit on both sides. What's the market look like for him when he hits the open market?
I think it goes one of two ways. There are sort of two minds, I should say, to this. On the one hand, it's the best season from Jadeveon maybe in 4 or 5 years. So he may say, I got to capitalize because I just had this terrific season, so consistent in terms of the pass rush production, but also, a guy that throughout his career has probably been underrated in terms of how he can set the edge and impact the run defense as well. The other thought would be, he's bounced around a lot. I mean, this is a player who goes from Houston to Seattle. I mean, he's had some stops. Cleveland, he's kind of well-traveled now, and he may say to himself, the stability that I found this past year is worth more to me than just finding the biggest contract available. So I don't have a great grip on how that one will go. He also has been a player that has been, I would say, very patient in free agency in prior years, right? It has not been a priority for him to have a deal wrapped up the second the legal tampering window opens up. So this one may drag out because history has told us he's unafraid to wait things out.
In terms of other players, the Ravens from other teams they could covet, there seems to be rumors around the running back market and
Sure.
the big names who could be there, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and on down the line. Is there any fire to that smoke that the Ravens could be in the big name running back market?
I would say I'm just sort of guessing here, but they have both, and I think both EDC and Coach Harbaugh have both they've both brought up, like, we need more running backs. Whether that's retaining, Gus and J.K., both scheduled to become free agents in less than a month here, whether it's adding to the room through the draft or adding in free agency. But one of the realities of playing in the offense that they do is that you're going to have running backs interested in being a part of this. And I think if I were Derrick Henry and I want to go compete for a championship after playing these past 2 seasons for a team that had 2 tough years in Tennessee, as far as legitimate suitors that could be both a style fit but also give me a chance to compete at the highest level, Baltimore has to be on the short list if I were to step into Derrick Henry's very, very large shoes here for a moment. So it would make sense to me, but I come back to this on the running back question with the Ravens, is that it has to be at the right price, because if there is a position in football that we have realized you can find great value at, it's the running back spot, and they've got a lot of players that they have to either pay now because they're free agents or are going to have to be paid a year from now because they are extension candidates, a la Kyle Hamilton and eventually Tyler Linderbaum, right? Like, this is like the bill comes due because it's worth it for guys that are Pro Bowl or all-pro level players.
Totally. And the Ravens obviously go to the AFC Championship this year. They had the best record in the AFC and the NFL over the course of the season. And the focus is to take that next step and get to a Super Bowl and ideally win it, for fans of Baltimore. What are your expectations for this team's ability to be back in this position a year from now and potentially get over that hump?
No reason to think they can't be right there again. And, for the Ravens, this is an old coach saying, but I believe in it. You got to win your division first. You got to care about your division first. And that's absolutely the case when you play in I believe the only division this past year that had all 4 teams with a winning record, the AFC North, and 2 teams that dealt with significant quarterback injuries in Cleveland and Cincinnati. You expect to be better next season. So it's never easy going through the AFC North. But, I think that this roster last year proved it was the most balanced in the entire NFL. And the difference between this offseason and last offseason is the quarterback clarity that they have. Obviously, they ended up getting a deal done with Lamar just prior to last year's draft, but I cannot tell you how difficult it is for a GM and the person who's managing the salary cap to piece the puzzles together when you don't know what your quarterback contract is going to be. You guys, I'm sure, can recall the deals that were signed prior to Lamar's extension getting done that were deals that were structured in a way that made the 2023 finances extremely low. Odell and Nelson Aguilar amongst those deals. Now they have that financial clarity with Lamar that just makes life, I'm not going to say easier, right?
It's easier. It's good to have your quarterback done and know what it's going to cost.
It's the most important part of the roster, and you have that part locked up for 5 more seasons, so you know what the what the cost is going to be. So that to me, I think, helps a lot this year and makes this offseason, again, I'm not going to say easy, but easier to structure if you are Eric DeCosta and the various power players in that front office. Awesome.
Well, Phil, we really appreciate your time. Ravens fans, you can watch him throughout the ESPN coverage this weekend, so appreciate it. Have a great week here.